Hey, what's up guys, ImpulseEvan here, and today I am bringing you guys another video, and in this video I'm going to be reacting to the new FNAF film theory called The FNAF Movie Just Changed the Lore. So, what I'm wondering already is he going to say it's a retcon, or is he going to say that it's just different? I hope he doesn't say it's a retcon, because, like, it's not. But, this is a 16-minute video. This came out today. I actually have my own FNAF theory and Easter eggs video for the FNAF movie. And it was supposed to come out like 10 days ago, but I haven't had time because it takes a long time to. It took a long time to write because there's a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of theories and stuff to talk about. And now it's taking even longer to edit. Hopefully it'll be out tomorrow. Hopefully, but who knows at this point. The FNAF movie just changed the lore. Let's check this out. Let's see what he says. I watched the movie 3 times, by the way.
Welcome to Film Theory, the show that knows that a picture
Hello, Film
is
Theory.
worth 1,000 words.
The drawings show them what really happened.
And what did you draw? A yellow rabbit hitting the subscribe button?
They can see you now.
Well, great! That is the point of the subscribe button, after all. Thanks, Abby. Finally, it's happened. After 8 agonizingly long years in development hell, hopping from studio to studio, director to director, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is finally out for you to go see right now. And man, has this been a commercial hit. As of the writing of this script, just 1 weekend into release, the movie's made over $152 million at the box office. More than 7 times its own budget. And that's despite being available to stream on Peacock, where, oh wait, it's also the most viewed movie on Peacock ever. Suck on that, my big fat Greek wedding 3.
I gotta watch that movie.
Blumhouse's most successful opening weekend to date, which means that more people are turning out to see Springtrap wielding his knife than Michael Myers. Maybe now Hollywood will finally bother to get the name of this thing right.
And his other movie, Friday Nights at Freddy's, comes to theaters and streaming on Peacock October 27th.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
What did I say?
Friday nights. It's been 8 or 9 years since I first met Scott Cawthorn, who created this.
Cawthorn.
Get it wrong.
Nights.
Or not. Who cares? Forget them. This thing was made for the fans. From Sparky the Dog to Dream Theory to...
Yep.
It's just a theory.
You bet it is, and today we're getting back to those theorist roots. Today we're theorizing about the actual movie, and boy, is there a lot to talk about.
There is quite a bit to talk
After
about.
the movie, I basically locked myself in the room with Lee and Tom, the film and game theory creative directors, and we busted out our trusty whiteboard to figure out exactly what was going on in the movie and where the story was going to head in the future. Because there were just a lot of details left hanging. What was up with the Balloon Boy figurine? How's
Teaser
no one
for
freaked
FNAF
out
2,
by the fact
probably.
that there are bodies in those animatronics? Wasn't this like the most structurally unsound table for it of all time? That last one, perhaps, the biggest mystery of them all. Today, we're going to be looking at all the Easter eggs, secrets, and hidden lore from the movie, then comparing those to other parts of the franchise, both the books and the games, in order to predict where the story of the FNAF 2 movie is gonna go years before they actually make it. So that's our one job for today, but before we get to it, I also have to shout out our brand new line of officially licensed FNAF
I'm
theories.
sorry, I'm here for the theory, so I don't really care.
And now, with that shameless self-promotion out of the way, let's just hop into the theory, shall we? So to begin, we should point out that we already do have some vague idea where the sequel's gonna head. In an interview
Probably
with
FNAF 2.
director Emma Tammy explained that the first movie was tied to the first game, so a second film would likely tie into a second game, which, kinda goes without saying.
Yeah.
Also should probably make our lives easy, right? Yeah, not quite. As we mentioned in our first prediction theory, the strategy for the movieverse seems to be taking iconic bits and pieces from across the entire franchise, games, books, fan theories, even hoaxes, and distilling it all down into the most recognizable version of FNAF there is. That's how we got Mike Schmidt from FNAF 1 hanging out with Vanessa from Security Breach, fighting Springtrap from FNAF 3, and saving Abby from getting stuck into a Springlock version of Ella from the Silver Eyes novel, with an ending that was ripped straight out of the 4th closet. It
and
is
the Silver
literally
Eyes.
FNAF the smoothie. Everything dumped into a blender, chopped up, and then poured back out onto the big screen. So yeah, while it did follow the same broad strokes as the first game, Five Nights in the FNAF 1 pizzeria with ghost kids in suits, it is definitely not the same story.
Yes. I will say, I think that they did a really good job at combining all the different elements, especially all the Easter eggs and stuff, and putting it all into this movie without it feeling, like, obviously it is fan service for the most part, but it doesn't feel unnatural just because of how big the world actually is. And I think they did it in a really cool way, and they combined everything in a way that worked without feeling kind of too bloated, I think.
It's also important to note the changes to the story that have been added in. One
Yes.
example has to be the time that these movies take place. It's
Yes.
widely
FNAF
accepted
1
that
takes
FNAF
place in
1 video game
1993.
takes place somewhere around 1993.
Yes.
And yet, in this scene from the movie,
2000.
we see a date on a security camera that reads April 6th, 2000, about 7 years later. Another big example, though we've long theorized that the story of the original FNAF games takes place in Utah, that is not the case.
I mean,
in the
that's
film.
not a
In the
theory.
film, during the scene where Aunt Jane is confronting Mike at Abby's school, her lawyer hands Mike some family court paperwork. If you pause and read the fine print on the documents, you'll find the URL mncourts.gov, which is the official website for the Minnesota judicial system. Additionally, we can see a phone number with the area code 651, which is connected to the St. Paul area and eastern suburbs of Minnesota. And get this, I kid you not, there's a small town in this area
Afton.
named Afton. You cannot make that up. Honestly, I wouldn't be
That's
surprised
funny.
if Scott moved the entire movie to Minnesota just
Just
that
for
change
Afton.
alone. Lastly, there's also
I didn't actually know
panel
about that.
on Vanessa's police cruiser, GFPD. PD stands for police department. That part's pretty darn
Obviously,
obvious.
yeah.
But then what about the GF? Well, honestly, that could
Golden
stand for any
Freddy.
city or township with those same initials, from Grand Forks to Glen Falls to Great Falls, but included in that list is Granite Falls, just 2 hours west of St. Paul, whose cop cars, at least according to the website, follow the exact same black and white color pattern that we see in the movie. Speaking of clues from the cars that are seen throughout the movie, we can also reasonably assume that Mike's brother Garrett was kidnapped in the early 80s, based on this shot from Mike's dream sequence. By taking the rear end of William Afton's car here and reverse image searching for it, we're able to identify this as a Ford Fairmont Futura. Specifically, the model is coming from between 1980 and 1983. You can immediately see the
1983?
connections here between the unique vertical taillight design and the boxy body shape. But why then does that matter? Well, Mike's brother Garrett is likely the first child that Afton abducted and killed. In Mike's dream flashbacks, we very clearly see Garrett holding a toy airplane as he's being taken away in the back of Afton's car. And where do we see that airplane again? When Vanessa reveals Afton to be her father. She's holding the same airplane.
Yes.
That right there, that is cold. Gifting toys from your victims to your daughter. But not only is it gross, it's also helpful because it
Okay, before he continues, I just want to say, for Garrett, wow, the video's already almost halfway done. I guess it's not really too much to say, at least at this point, because he's just, like, going over the stuff in the movie, but, Garrett is very interesting because he's Mike's younger brother, and Mike also has a younger sister, right? And Mike in the games is Michael Afton, and he has a younger brother and a sister, and Garrett dies just like the bite victim dies, and I think that's like definitely meant to be a whole connection. Obviously, it's done in a very different way. He was kidnapped here by William rather than bitten by Golden Freddy, or Fredbear, I mean. But I do think that that's definitely meant to be a connection. What I wonder is, well, also I want to ask you guys if you think it is, do you guys think that Garrett is the name of the bite victim? Because while Abby is different than Elizabeth, it's primarily like a nickname for Abigail, but it can be a nickname for Elizabeth. Obscurely, but it can be. And it also is an anagram of baby, but... So if Abby is Elizabeth, then wouldn't Garrett be the bite victim? And in that case, would Garrett be the name of the bite victim in the games? You could say that Abby is different, but as I just said, it can be a nickname. So could it be the same name? And also, you could like warp the name slightly, like they did with Abby. You could warp it to just like Gary or something like that. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in because I think Garrett is a really interesting part of the movie and definitely worth noting, especially since it's tied with Mike's motivations. And in the games, Mike basically, his motivations are from the fact that he killed his younger brother, and it's his fault. And in the movie, he feels responsible for his for his brother dying.
that lets us... Vanessa reveals Afton to be her father.
Yes.
She's holding the same airplane. That right there, that is cold. Gifting toys from your victims to your daughter. But not only is it gross,
Savage.
it's also helpful because it lets us put together a rough timeline. You see, Afton and Vanessa are clearly in a still operational pizzeria in this photograph, which means it had to have been taken before the other kids went missing, causing Freddy's to shut down. In other words, Garrett
Yes.
was the first of Afton's victims that we currently know of. And that right there, that's important because in the games, Afton's first victim, and the one
Was
most
Charlotte,
closely
yes.
associated with his car, goes on to possess the puppet, a marionette-esque character that serves as a protector and guide to all the other spirit children. It's the first victim that gives gifts and gives life to the other animatronics after their murders. We see this possession happening in FNAF 6's security puppet minigame. Notice the tire tracks out there in the rain. We see the exact same event from a different angle
Yes.
in FNAF 2. Notice that cool purple car. From there, the rest of FNAF 2's hidden minigames then show us the puppet trying to protect the other dead children from Afton. And when it can't, the puppet decides to bring them to life in the form of animatronics. The robotic voice here is
Save
spelling
them.
out save them. Does it sound familiar? It should. That same robotic voice appears at the very end of the movie's credits.
Come find me.
Once the whole thing wraps, the voice has spelled out, "Come find me."
And at that
That's the
moment,
way
you can
the
also
puppet
hear
communicated
the
to
puppet's
player
music
in the
box.
FNAF 2 minigames.
Or right before
Who
that,
needs to
you
be
can,
found
in the
in the
credits.
movie? Garrett. See, the fact that they never resolved what exactly happened to Garrett was a big thing that stuck out to me when I was watching this thing. After all, it was Mike's entire motivation and his only clear outright connection to both Afton and Vanessa. His fate is definitely going to come up again in the sequel, and all the signs are
Probably,
pointing
yeah.
to the puppet from the FNAF 2 video game. What's more,
I think that's very possible. It's just a question of, is it possible that Charlotte herself also exists in the movie? There's no real indication of that. Some of my friends think that she does, so I don't know. Maybe there is something that indicates that, but I'm not really sure that there is. But Garrett being the puppet in the movie universe does make sense, and I talk about this in my Easter egg and theory video for the FNAF movie coming out probably tomorrow, maybe in a couple days. I talk about that, and I mention how in a YouTube short that MatPat made a while ago, he suggested that the bite victim was originally supposed to be the puppet, and then later on, while Scott was making FNAF 4, he changed that and made the bite victim someone else instead. And he suggested that that was the retcon that Scott talked about in that one, like, retcon post on, I think, Steam, or was it Reddit? One of the two. And he suggested that that was that retcon. And since the movies are based on the first 3 games, obviously they take inspiration and bits and pieces from everywhere in the series, but they're primarily based on the story of the first 3 games. As if the rest of the game's stories never happened and only the first 3 games happened. Like I just said, there's other stuff from throughout the series that are combined into the story, but it's the main first 3 games story. So it's possible that if Garrett is the bite victim, and if he is the puppet in the movie universe, that MatPat was right, that the puppet was originally supposed to be the bite victim. I don't know for sure. It's just possible, but I thought that was worth mentioning here.
Notice the music that was playing during that section? It's a music box.
Yep,
Another
the
nod
puppet.
to the puppet, who in the games is kept calm by
It's
constantly
the
finding
puppet's
music
box.
In short, Garrett
the puppet's
is
music
possessing
box.
the puppet in this world, and here
Maybe,
he is
yeah.
literally trying to tell Mike and the audience to come find him in the sequel. But stop for a minute and consider the method of Afton's crime here. It is different
Possibly.
from all the rest. He's out in nature. He kidnaps Garrett and presumably leaves him alive longer than his normal victims. He keeps the kid's toy and then gives it to his daughter. They're even in a completely different state. Unlike the rest of Afton's crimes, where he just lures kids to the back of the pizzeria and kills them, here things feel premeditated. They feel personal.
Yes.
And that would align with both the games and the books, where Afton's first murder isn't just a random killing, it's targeted against one person, his business partner and the original builder of the animatronics, Henry.
Small souls trapped in prisons of my making, now set to new purpose. A wound first inflicted on me, but then one that I let bleed out to cause all of this.
In fact, in the novel trilogy, Afton does the exact same thing that he does in the movie. He kidnaps Henry's daughter, Charlie, before ultimately killing her. Basically, all signs point to Garrett not just being a random victim, but rather to him being the son of Afton's partner and rival, Henry, the man who helped Afton build all of the animatronics. See, as I was piecing together the details from the movie, I started to notice something.
I have heard this theory that Mike and Garrett were Henry's kids in the movies. And I think that is possible, but I feel like it is kind of, I don't know, since it's not true in the games, obviously it would be different, and that's perfectly fine. Obviously they changed stuff for the movie and from the games. But I don't know if that would be the case. It very well might be, especially since Mike says that, his parents were perfect, and just like Henry is supposedly like a perfect dad before Charlotte dies, and he's like a loving father and stuff. But it's also possible, and this is a controversial theory, especially now that the movie has come out, but it's also possible that Mike and Garrett were actually Afton's kids, or at least Mike, and then that Mike's mom left Afton and then got with Mike's dad, who would in that case be a stepdad, whether Mike knows it or not. But that would also solve the motivation thing, and I think I talk about that in my FNAF movie Easter eggs and theories video too. I don't know if that's the case. It's possible, but it's it's only really possible. It's not like confirmed or anything like that. So Mike and Garrett being Henry's kids in the movie universe could be the case.
Henry's daughter Charlie before ultimately killing her. Basically, all signs point to Garrett not just being a random victim, but rather to him being the son of Afton's partner and rival Henry, the man who helped Afton build all of the animatronics. See, as I was piecing together the details from the movie, I started to notice something. The Afton and Schmidt families from the movie seem awfully close to the family structures from the games, except in reverse. You see, in the game series, we know that Afton has himself 3 children, Michael, Crying Child, and Elizabeth. The oldest son, Michael, plays a prank as a kid, which gets his younger brother killed in the iconic bite of 1983. From there on, Mike becomes obsessed with atoning for his mistake, eventually becoming a security guard and releasing the spirit of his brother into the afterlife. Then there's Elizabeth, who eventually gets trapped and dies inside a baby, a suit that is increasingly looking to be a spring-lock animatronic. Now let's check out the Schmidt family over in the movie. You have, again, a family of 3, 2 boys and a girl. Mike, the older brother, is a security guard who's obsessed with atoning for the time that he got his younger brother Garrett kidnapped and killed. Then there's Abby, who's nearly trapped and killed inside the Ella suit, a spring-lock animatronic. They literally match 1 for 1. Meanwhile, Afton in the movie seems to have himself only 1 daughter, Vanessa, just like Henry had himself 1 daughter, Charlie, in the games. So if they've switched,
I mean, he also has a
that
son,
can make
but
Mike's dad here the representative of Henry Emily from the games.
Her mom died.
It could be.
A little while back, and Dad, he couldn't handle it, so...
They leave Mike's dad's fate vague. To me, looks like it was deliberately done in case they ever wanted to bring Mike's dad back into the story in a role similar to Henry's. But perhaps most interesting of all, if you look in the background of the employee training video, you can see a man who looks very similar to Mike's dad working on the animatronics.
Not really.
Just like Henry would have done in the game's canon. This is also, as far as I can tell, an uncredited performance, but one look at Mike's dad, this guy from the training video, and the way that Henry's portrayed in
I'm pretty sure it's not the same guy.
It shows a visual design connection between the 3 of them. But not only would this connection fit with the established game lore, it would also explain why William Afton recognizes Mike. Early in the movie, we see Afton have a moment of recognition when he reads Mike's last name.
Mr. Michael.
But according to US Census data, there's around 166,000 people with the last name Schmidt here in the US. So either this is just a case of pure movie coincidence, or William recognizes not only the last name Schmidt, but Mike Schmidt specifically, in the general age range that his partner's son would be. That's why he's so sure that this is someone from his past. More evidence for this? The fact that William knows that Mike has a brother without it ever being addressed.
This is perfect. First I killed your brother, now I killed you.
Sure, we can assume the spirit children told him.
Little ones tell me you have a sister.
Or maybe Vanessa, but that's a bit less satisfying than him just knowing and taking out his vendetta against every member of the Schmidt family. And for those of you saying that Henry's last name is Emily, it might be, but that's never actually been officially confirmed. We've always thought it was a bit bizarre to have as a last name, and let's be honest, it could just as easily be Charlie's middle name, Charlotte Emily Schmidt. But last, let's talk about
I doubt that.
You'll notice that I just
considering he himself said in a theory from a few years ago that in the 4th closet, Charlotte's name is Charlotte Emily. There's no other name, so Emily is her last name. So Schmidt definitely isn't Henry's last name. In the movies, maybe, but in the games, that's definitely not the case. Also, going back to what he said before, he said that the guy working on the animatronic and Mike's dad look really similar. Not really. I don't think they look similar, but I should say that I'm pretty sure that the guy that was working on the animatronics, I could be wrong about this, but I've heard that that guy working on the animatronics was actually someone from Jim Henson's Creature Shop, like somebody that actually worked there, working on it for the movie. And Mike's dad is played by somebody completely different, so they're definitely, I definitely don't think they're meant to be the same person. That doesn't discredit Mike being Henry's son in the games, because that could just be like a random pizzeria worker that's just like, it doesn't have to be one guy that's making every single animatronic. Like, he could make the basis for them, but I doubt he made every single one. But yeah, I don't think that that guy is Mike's dad.
Charlotte Emily Schmidt. But last, let's talk about William. You'll notice that I just pulled the line that indicates that the spirits talk to William throughout this movie, which is a very important detail. In fact, if you notice, they really gave Afton a lot of explicit
that's from the
control
4th
over what
closet.
The spirits are doing
that happens.
Here. See, while he seems to understand what was happening in the games, it never seemed like he could outright control the animatronics. In the books, it's a little bit different. He eventually is able to control the animatronics, but not until the last novel of the trilogy. Here, though, he seems to understand all of it from
He can't control them. He can just like
Abby. He understands the
He's not able to control them, he's just able to manipulate them.
Importance of the pictures on the wall.
What have you done?
And as the spring locks in his suit are going off and he's dying, what does he do? He basically looks directly in the camera, says his catchphrase,
I always come back.
and puts on the Springtrap helmet. Why? What sense would that make? Well, it's a pretty clear indication that this Afton explicitly knows how possession works, and it involves being completely put inside of the suit like this. Putting on that helmet is basically Afton accepting his fate, knowing that he'll be back, able to possess the suit and survive. So right here we have ourselves a smarter Afton who is years further in his understanding of the spiritual world than either the Afton in the games or the books, which leads...
I mean, I think that Afton did know about that stuff in the games, but by the time that he actually started acting on it, he did end up getting spring locked. But that was after Freddy's already closed, so it didn't really matter at that point.
Me to this, an animatronic buried in the parts and service room of the pizzeria. One that you can't see in the movie, but you can see in the behind-the-scenes footage from Dawko during his tour of the movie set. An animatronic with rounded human skull, silver eyes, and human teeth. While this could just be background set dressing, I don't think that's the case. If this is truly an Afton who understands the power of agony in granting eternal life, if this is an Afton who has gone so far as to build a Freddy torture chair for extracting remnant from his victims,
definitely not what that is.
With building passable robotic humans has already begun. This isn't just me playing the Robot Gregory game again. It is the only explanation for the parts and services room to have an animatronic with human teeth and realistic human head proportions and eyes. And above it, hanging from the top of the shop, a robotic hand with 5 fully articulating fingers and human proportions. No,
I mean, it could be,
animatronic...
It could be, but it could also be like something that they're working on. This might be a stretch, but it could just be like that they're working on something for the next movies, and that's like meant to be Springtrap. Like it could be. It could be what he's saying though. I'm not like saying that he's wrong or anything. I'm just giving an alternate possibility.
And with 5 fully articulating fingers and human proportions. No other animatronic in this series fits this sort of description. Does this mean he's already built a humanoid, or is this just an early phase of his experiments?
Vanessa's a robot.
That does give a bit more credit to Vanessa's bloodless stab wound at the end of the movie being more than just an excuse to get itself a PG-13 rating. My real guess though is that there's a robot Garrett walking around, and that he'll be the reveal at the end of the movie, just like Charlie the puppet is revealed to be a robot at the end of the 4th closet. A world-shattering revelation for Mike as he comes to terms with the nature of his brother and his father's weird creations before the final movie where he's tasked with having to burn it all down. Honestly, the pieces are in place for us. Or not. All the next movie has to do is drop a Markiplier cameo and then show me a clip of Mangle and I'm in. But hey, one last reminder to check out
all the movie has to do for me is exist, and then I'll be in. But alright, I think that's the end.
Always, my friends, remember, it's all just a theory. A film theory.
Launch is the most important.
And cut.
Alright, cool. Alright, that was a pretty good theory. There's things that, like, I don't think he's definitively wrong about anything. I mean, I don't often think he's definitively wrong, but I do think that everything that he's saying does make sense for the most part. I don't agree with absolutely everything, but I think everything is definitely possible and makes sense in some regard. Maybe I need to think about it more. Maybe I need to watch this again just so I can like think more about everything that he's saying. But my own video on Easter eggs and theories is going to be out hopefully tomorrow. Let's hope tomorrow. If not, the next day. But hopefully tomorrow. But I'm going to end the video there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to. And let me know what you guys think of this film theory. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.